What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pour. It's just me, Jordan, here today, but I'm here with my friend Barry from RD1 Distillery. Welcome, Barry.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, Happy to be here, man. I love getting together with people, talking bourbon and sipping.
Yeah. And we just had a really cool event at Vic's Liquor Store where Barry got to talk to a lot of people in the area, and he was kind enough to stop by, so we really appreciate it. But thought we wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to this distillery if you haven't had anything from them, or maybe remind you of some of the offerings that they do have. We've got their RD1 French Oak in the glass. That's my favorite. Had that bottle for a little bit, and we're going to talk about a few of the varieties. But before we get to that, let's just talk a little bit about the distillery, Barry.
Yeah.
So kind of when did you guys start? Who all's involved? And kind of what made you want to jump into this venture?
Well, I think, first of all, I'm from Kentucky. So I think if you're from Kentucky, you should be a bourbon ambassador because it's a $9 billion a year tourism revenue. So I think it's really important. A lot of the guests that come to the state of Kentucky are usually from outside of the state and outside of the U.S. market, especially during Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So for me, lifelong Lexingtonian in Kentucky, and grew up around this club called the Lexington Bourbon Society, and just fell in love with the industry. And so what I did is we had a digital marketing company, and I talked to a lot of business owners. And so some of my current partners spoke to them about what's important to be seen, heard, and found online. And I would do that for 10 minutes, and then for the next 30 minutes, I'll talk about bourbon. and so I met enough people. They said you probably should start your own bourbon business. Okay. And so fortunately we did. So, currently the partnership is Mike Tedderton and Marcia Couch. And so they are majority owners, along with Mark Stoops, the University of Kentucky football coach. And then we have another partner that's just came on recently before we started building the new brand destination that I'll talk about in a little bit here. But Raj Patel. Raj Patel does transportation, and he is very diversified. Young guy. I think he's 32, so young guy, but very successful. So it takes a lot of money if you're going to start a bourbon brand, and especially now, you have to have deep pockets to be able to take your brand out national and to be able to afford marketing and sales and the things that it really requires. And then, of course, the awareness of the product itself. And so, that's really what started me. I love the industry, I like to say I'm one of bourbon's biggest cheerleaders because I think that it's America's signature spirit and it's Kentucky's signature spirit. So I'm just super excited to be here and continue to talk about bourbon.
Yeah, cool. And one thing, what is your role? You're the national brand ambassador.
Yeah. So I'm the co-founder and I function as the national brand ambassador. But I'm one of the bourbon guys and girls of the. So as we're bringing out new products, and of course now we just announced that we've hired a wood scientist. He's got his PhD in wood maturation, and so I know
that's awesome.
Who would have thought that that's a thing? But Jared Gollahue, really great guy, came from the James Beam Institute at the University of Kentucky. Okay. And so, he's got credentials, he's been distilling, so he understands what it takes. And he's going to propel us because really what RD1 is about is what more can Kentucky bourbon do with wood finishing? Mm-hmm. He's going to take us to that next level. And I've already been sampling some samples of some wood finishes that are going to blow people's minds.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. New brand destination in Lexington, Kentucky on Main Street. And we'll be mashing, fermenting, and distilling there. We'll have a wood science lab. You'll actually be able to come in and Jared will be able to walk you through, different wood finishes and maybe blend your own barrel.
Get your own education, right?
Yeah. We call him Dr. Wood.
That's a good one. I love that. Only in Kentucky, though, could you go and study wood maturation, right? And it makes sense. And it makes sense.
And then work for a distillery.
Yeah, right. So tell us how the name RD1, how that came about.
Yeah, so RD1, registered distillery number 1. So a little bit of history here. In 1800, we just got through this horrible Revolutionary War, and so then the new government wanted to start taxing people on distilled spirits, and we're like, no, wait a minute, we've already been there. We overthrew, the oppressors, and you're not going to come in here. So President Washington at the time was able to stop the rebellion up in the flatlands of the Northeast, but in the foothills of Kentucky, you ain't gonna. We're scrappy.
Yeah, good luck, right? Yeah.
So they squashed the taxation on distilled spirits in 1800. Well, in 1862. We're going through a horrible civil war. So President Lincoln re-registers distilleries. So each tax district had an RD1, Registered Distillery 1, RD2, RD3. And so it just so happens in Kentucky in 1865, the first registered distillery is called the Ashland Distillery. Okay. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to pay honor and respect to Lexington's first. We're not resurrecting a brand, but we're establishing a brand to pay honor and respect to Lexington's first, and then write that next chapter. And that next chapter is, what more can Kentucky bourbon do with wood finishing? And so, I'm a traditionalist. I love straight, uncut, unfiltered. But you know what? There's a lot of flavor profiles out there. So French Oak, Bourbon Elegant. Our Amberana is a wild adventure, as we know. Yeah. And then the Double Oak and Maple is a campfire brunch. Yeah. So we're going to be coming out with some stuff that are just going to blow people's minds. I can't wait to talk about it.
I can't wait to try. Maybe we'll have to be on your media list. You can send us some samples.
Yeah, of course you will. You're on it. Elizabeth, he's on it.
There we go. All right. Well, we've got the endorsement of Barry here, so we're awesome. So one thing that I do want to talk about is the bottle. Let's talk about it real quick. Walk us through the bottle design, because it is, you hate kind of being like, oh, it's a cool bottle, but it does count. And trust me, though, the juice inside each of one of these is awesome, but the bottle is super cool. So let's talk about the bottle, because there's some cool things.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the Ashland Distillery was the first registered distillery, and on the label of the Ashland bottle, there was a tree. And so we have a tree that's right there on the neck label, kind of a nod to Lexington's first registered distillery, the Ashland Distillery. We are locally owned. Our ownership is in Lexington, Kentucky. And so we have Kentucky born and raised on that label. It was entrepreneurs that started the first registered distillery, and then it's entrepreneurs that are continuing to write that next chapter of Registered Distillery 1. And then, of course, if you look down here, we have a 4-plank horse fence at the bottom. We're kind of known for this, the most exciting 2 minutes of sports, the Kentucky Derby. And we have a lot of thoroughbred horses in Kentucky. So this is really a nod to our thoroughbred industry. And then, of course, we have a barrel head there at the bottom of the bottle. And this is based off of a 1800 squat bottle that we actually have in our possession. So when we finish this distillery in Lexington, we're going to have a museum archive, like most other distilleries do, to kind of give a nod to our history and help guests, kind of walk through time to see, some of these things that really matter, especially to us.
Yeah, cool. I think that's the attention to detail on the bottle is so cool, and I love knowing all that, but really, too, the attention to detail of the stuff inside. So that's a good transition into some of the offerings. So let's talk about those. This is the standard offering.
Yeah, this is the traditional Kentucky straight bourbon. The mash bill is 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley, and it's 98 proof. These are currently aged anywhere from a small batch of 4 to 6 years. We have a liquid strategy that's going to continue to age our bourbon further. So you'll see a 5-year age statement on here, and 6 and 7 years we continue to age out. So that was our first offering, was the traditional Kentucky straight bourbon. The first wood finish that we had was our French oak. French oak is a very interesting wood. It stays within that flavor wheel of traditional bourbon, and it imparts creamy vanilla. You get some baking chocolate. There's a stone fruit on there. It's complex. You saw today, when we were doing the tasting, people were like, they taste this, love it. It's traditional. This is like, oh, it takes me a step back. It's, it has a lot more character. And that's what I love about it. And it stays within, for me, it stays within that flavor wheel of bourbon, which I like. But, sometimes you just got to go and have a wild adventure, and so our Amberana, it's from Brazil. And so this one, imparts flavors that are way outside the flavor wheel. So you're going to get cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice, a ginger snap. There's a cinnamon apple strudel, pleasant mouthfeel on that mid palate, and it finishes tropical. Some people get coconut. Several guests tonight had coconut on their palate. Other people really enjoyed maybe a pineapple note. So really, and it's 110 proof. It does not drink like 110 proof.
It's more like 90.
Yeah, it goes
honestly.
down way easy.
Yeah.
And then of course the double oaken maple is a maple bomb. This one transports me to Cracker Barrel. I'm sitting in front of a stack of flapjacks, and that maple syrup that's warm. You pour it over the stack of flapjacks. It is. There's obviously maple on the aroma, but there's a butterscotch, and then there's a pecan note. Several guests tonight said that they got a pecan pie, which is very reminiscent of what a lot of people would get with that.
Right. And there was one interesting thing about how you impart that maple flavoring. So let's share with everybody how that's done.
Yeah, so the way that we do it, we use the French oak stave. It's heavily toasted. We seep maple syrup from Vermont onto that stave, and then we have this process where we're driving that maple, we're drying it, and we're driving it into the wood. So there's no liquid maple that's going into the bottle, into the barrel, but you get that essence of maple. It's a 99 proof. But it's very delicious. Makes a great maple old fashioned, or just drinking it neat on the rocks.
Yes, straight up, very delicious.
Yeah.
And then this we did cover that was 110 proof. So how do you get the Amberana? I am saying that right.
Yeah, Amberana.
How do you get the Amberana in on that?
Yeah, so in all of our barrels, we use the existing American oak barrel, and we put staves into the bung hole, and we cover it up with an artificial bung, and we're sampling. Once we put the wood in there, we're sampling to flavor, and to what the flavor that we want it to be at. And so we're sampling a week after it goes into that barrel, just so that we track it. And of course, depending on the time of the year, you're going to have more or less time in that barrel with those staves. But we have a profile that we're looking for. We for me, I like to have some whiskey notes in the expressions, along with whatever flavor that you're working with.
Yeah. And then you put about 6 of those in, right? And they're like the honeycomb staves.
They're the honeycomb staves, and we're getting as many as it takes, and there's only so many you're going to be able to fit into that barrel.
Right. And then the same is done for the French oak too.
Yeah. So the French oak is actually on a chain, and it's blocks of that French oak. So it's just that one big long stave, the chain of staves that go into it.
And then this Amberana, a lot of people either kind of love it or hate it. I initially tried it months ago at tasting, and it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I revisited it tonight, and I don't know if my palate changed or what, but that is fantastic. I think we mentioned you don't really drink like a lot of that at once because it is a kind of a powerful flavor, but this is super popular in your portfolio and accounts for quite a bit of sales, right? So
it does account for a lot of sales. Everybody's different in their palate. Every region's different. I think that this being so unique and having something that gives a wild adventure flavor profile, but still has some whiskey notes in it, is good. We're just continuing to look at our research and development to continue to create innovative spirits that the masses will love and drink and buy another bottle and tell their friends about it.
Well, I think it shines through in each of these expressions because I tasted all of them tonight. They're absolutely fantastic. So a great distillery. If you're in the Lexington area on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, I definitely think you could check it out. Where are you guys located in Lexington?
So right now we're in the distillery district. That's on Manchester Street, and other distilleries are located there. We're just about a mile away on Main Street in Lexington. It's called the Commons Lex. It's a development. It's about 40 acres. There'll be us. We'll have a functioning distillery. We'll be mashing, fermenting, and distilling. We'll have a wood science lab. We'll have a large cocktail bar, and then there'll be a nice restaurant that's going to be right there attached to the same building that we are in. And then we'll have a wonderful green space. There's going to be an amphitheater, so there's going to be an indoor-outdoor 1,000-seat amphitheater. We're going to bring acts in, Nashville-style acts that are going to come in and play. And
Cool.
it's going to be a wonderful addition to Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington now is on the Bourbon Trail where we have gateway sponsorship. So when you go and get on that thing called the Google and look to see what to do on the Bourbon Trail, Lexington's going to pop up. And we're very excited about that. Other distilleries in Lexington and bars and restaurants are super excited to promote the Bourbon Trail. And we're going to be doing this thing called the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
Okay.
And second week in September in Bardstown. And so, we're excited to be there, and be alongside other Kentucky distilleries.
Yeah, awesome. When's that project going to be done with like the amphitheater?
So
what's the timetable?
The distillery should be done by Q1 of 2025.
Okay.
The amphitheater sometime probably mid-year of next year.
Okay, cool.
But you'll be able to come and do a tour at our new brand destination after the first of the year.
Okay. Cool, perfect. And if you own a liquor store or work for a liquor store that does barrel picks, RD1 does barrel picks as well. You have a barrel select program, so I'll do full barrels for right now too. So we would encourage you to check that out as well. So, all right, Barry. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Our saying at the end of every episode is, when you're with your family and your friends, always share your whiskey. So I always think that's cool. And you shared a lot of whiskey with a lot of people tonight, so we really appreciate that. So
love that.
Once again, we'll wrap up this episode. When you're with your family and your friends, always share your whiskey.
Cheers.